Welcome to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Registry of Deeds of Plymouth County. This show is about Plymouth County real estate. We're going to be reporting on activity in the month of April, although this is a May show. We're going to also have a great guest on the show, Tim White, who is the first Assistant Registrar of Deeds, to talk about some of our advancing new technology projects. And we're going to talk a little bit about Plymouth County history in our third segment. So let's go to the numbers. You're going to see a bar chart come up of deeds, which are sales of property. You can see that during the month of April, it slowed down a little bit. There were 733 deeds recorded in April, less than the 799 recorded in March, down 3% from the 755 last April. But for 4 months in 2018, it's been stable. The next image you're going to see is of mortgages. A mortgage is what people usually borrow to buy a house, and people can also take out a mortgage as a refinance of an existing mortgage. The refinancing numbers have really dropped. When rates went up, it pretty much came to an end. However, people are still using mortgages to buy property, obviously. There were 1,451 mortgages recorded in April, less than the 1,485 in March, down 4% compared to last April, and for the first 4 months of the year, they're down 8% over last year. And that pretty much is based on lack of refinancing. We always talk about foreclosure deeds. Clearly, it's a problem in the marketplace. However, less of a problem than it was years ago. There are 39 foreclosure deeds that went on record in April, less than the 53 in March, 35% less, however, than last April. And for the first 4 months of 2018, we're 22% lower than last year, which is a good thing. And foreclosure notices, you'll see that image is kind of bumpy, but there are 84 foreclosure notices that went on in April, slightly less than the 89 in March, 29% more, however, than April. You can see how I talk about it being bumpy, but 5% lower than for the first 4 months of the year. And many lenders are getting caught up with people that haven't been paying their mortgage. So you see it come forward at spurts at different times. There's a listing of foreclosures and orders of notice by every town. A foreclosure of notice is the first document we see that shows someone's in trouble with their mortgage. Foreclosure deed is when the lender has taken it back and has title of the property. Our training room is open once again on Thursday, June 7th. For anybody in the real estate market, anybody that's a genealogist, anyone that does anything related to land, it's a good free training session for 2 hours. The next one again is Thursday, June 7th. Be aware of our property fraud alert. Beware of some deed scams that are out there in the real estate market. And my guest on this show in the next segment is Attorney Tim White, who's the Assistant Registrar of Deeds, who will be talking about some modernization efforts at the Registry of Deeds. We'll see you in the next segment. Welcome back to the Register's Report. Again, my name is John Buckley. I'm the Registrar of Deeds of Plymouth County. In this segment of the show, we always try to do something educational in nature. We've had title examiners, appraisers, assessors, many people involved in the real estate market, realtors especially, and builders and others. However, every once in a while, we bring in one of the people that we work together with at the registry and talk about some of our ongoing modernization efforts, and that is what today is all about. So Tim White has joined me. Welcome, Tim, again.
Thanks, John.
Nice to see you as always.
Great to be here.
And whenever you come in, I think people should know that we're talking about advancements in the registry, because that's what we work together to do.
We do. We do. We always have some projects going on to try and improve the technology and the customer service.
And I probably should say that yesterday was a great day at the registry. We hosted all the registrars across Massachusetts from as far away as Pittsfield to talk about some technology changes that we'll all be looking at in the future, trying to make it easier to work off our systems than currently, laptops, iPhones, that type of applications, and we can continue to try to figure out the best way to do that as registers.
We did, and it was a great day to have all the registrars and assistant registrars down from across the state, and to hear their appreciation for our building and our setup there as far as recording and customer service and all those things. And of course, they were all very excited to be able to take a look at our some of the Colony Records room in the vault and look at some of the historic documents of our country.
Well, let's talk about a couple of projects that I know we've mentioned in the past that are, at least in this case, coming to completion. Our re-indexing project, we have been working with one of our outsourced companies to make a link between the index and the document, and we're back now to 1787.
That sounds about right. And when this particular part of the project started, we were at, what, 1955?
Right.
So we've covered a lot of land, so to speak, and it is closing in. We've got, we can see the end in sight, where we're going to get all the way back until 1685, when the county was created.
Yeah, the next batch will actually get us back to Book 13, of the many 49,000 plus books, and that would get us back to 1707. So Book 13 really closes in on 1685, Book 1.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And it's been a challenge in the last few weeks, so to speak, especially because some of these older records are so old that their legibility can be difficult, to say the least. But we're working through it, and the idea of linking all of these records together, I mean, first off, it's so critical for anybody in the real estate industry that is searching a title to a piece of property to be able to take that title back in history.
Right.
But it's also, in this day and age, become quite important for genealogists.
Of course, yeah.
Who love to come and take a look at our records and discover, who owned their property or prior to them, and whether there are any historic figures along the way.
Right. And Christine Richards, our IT director, has been the primary person working directly with the loading up of that information, and some of the questions that had to be answered relative to the readability of them.
Legibility, yeah.
Legibility.
Yeah.
And that is a little complicated in many cases.
It can be. It can be.
And it probably is a good lead into a project that we're out to bid with right now. We're out to bid on a project that will translate and transfer all the original handwritten deeds into printed format.
Right. I mean, back in the day, as you have a wonderful display at the registry showing the history of recording in our country, never mind here in Plymouth County, but going as far back as the quill pen and through the original old typewriters and computers, and where we are now electronically recording. But back in the day, it was all handwritten cursive writing, and to be able to take that cursive and have it transcribed into a printed document that is easy to match up with it is, I think, a terrific service for for the folks in Plymouth County and beyond.
Yeah, some of the writing is like artwork. It's beautiful handwriting.
They shame you and I will say that, given that I've seen enough of our own
Scribbles,
handwriting.
scribble.
Absolutely.
But it's clear that there's a whole new generation being raised without writing cursive or reading cursive.
Yeah, it's
And the
time.
fact that we're starting, in that particular project, we'll be starting at the oldest one of the county records.
County records,
In
because
1685 going forward.
right.
Will be quite a thing once we get it going. It'll take some time, because that's a very detailed project once it gets going.
but
But it'll be showing, we're releasing that in stages as it goes forward, but
Yeah.
it's a very good, positive project.
Absolutely, and you might mention at this stage too, is that although these are the original county records, the Plymouth Colony records that precede that, predate that, have already been transcribed.
Right, years ago.
Years ago, and it's and to have that benefit, when we've seen that benefit in the Plymouth Colony records, so we know there will be a comparable benefit to the old county records as well.
And so another project that's moving forward very quickly is something that would probably be understood best by the lawyers who recorded the registry, or people that are in the real estate business that would know that we have two sides of the registry. One side is recorded land, and one side is registered land. Registered land basically is called the Torrens system, created based upon an Australian system similar to a log of a ship, that when things come in, you log it into your log. When it comes off, you log it off. So in this particular registered land has a certificate, so that on that particular document are all the encumbrances all in one location. You don't have to go back and try to search through an index to find any claims on the title. It's all listed right on the certificate. And,
Right.
the ability to record that over the internet, like we've done for 8 or 9 years on the recorded side, will be of great benefit, because everyone that had to do a land court recording had to come down to Plymouth.
Right.
They couldn't go to one of our satellites in Brockton or Rockland. They had to bring everyone down and come down to Plymouth for that closing.
Right, and that is, I think, going to be, like I said, a great benefit, especially to the local real estate attorneys.
Right.
Or not even the local ones, the ones that might
Sure,
be
they have
coming
to-
out of Boston or north of Boston, for that matter, to be able to record online
Right.
will be a great benefit. So that project is well underway.
Right.
It still has a ways to go, and there's a learning curve with it, because land court recorders have never recorded online.
Right.
So there'll be a training process for that, but we have the benefit of having recorders from the recorded side to help with the training, and I think that is going to hopefully make it a smooth transition for us.
So we hope to roll that project out sometime this summer.
That's right.
And that's pretty much where we are on track and where it's moving forward. I don't foresee any difficulties, but if there are, we'll make sure we fix them before we put them up there for use.
Yeah, and we do. We have a good team working on it, and I definitely see substantial progress already in place.
And one of the other projects that we've been working on is relative to one of our satellite offices. For many, many years, back into the 1984, I believe, there's been satellite offices, particularly one in Brockton. It has been, for the last 17 years, at the former Brockton District Court. The county is selling that building. It's a big, costly building, because there isn't all that much going on in the building other than us. But we are working on a relocation nearby, and we hope to have that transition done by early fall.
And it's always complicated when you're moving an office,
Right.
because you've got not just moving the people there and creating the space, but you've also got the data that has to be properly put in place. And there's a second factor here from our perspective in Brockton is that our current Brockton location is our disaster recovery location. You know, as part of a public agency, you know, should there be a problem here in Plymouth at our main office where we weren't able to open the building, especially for an extended period of time, we don't want to be out of business.
Right.
So our backup plan is to go to Brockton. So the disaster recovery plan is in place down there. That too is going to have to be transitioned to the new location. So we've got our work cut out for us
Right.
coming up over this summer and early fall.
And while the addition of the generator has minimized power losses in the Plymouth Registry, there was a situation earlier this spring when a construction project broke a pipe in Plymouth, and we had to shut down because of
No
health
water.
code reasons.
Yep, yeah.
And we were able to send people to Brockton or Rockland to record. So backup business continuity plans are really important. There was a story once when I was in the Brockton office, and somebody called me desperate because they had closed on a piece of property in Taunton, and they had sold their house. They sold their house. They were he was with his wife and children in a moving van, packed to the gills, and he couldn't conduct his closing to purchase the new house. So he was sitting in the Brockton parking lot, asking if they could somehow run the closing in Brockton. However, we're different registries, different county registries. And the fact of the matter at that time was there was a dam in Taunton, downtown Taunton, near downtown, that was threatening to break. So they shut down the downtown at the time and all the downtown businesses, including the Registry of Deeds. So there was nothing they could have done until a few days later, the Taunton Registry was able to get a space in a school and get up and running again. But that's the importance of business continuity, the ability to keep your business flowing, going.
People do depend on us.
Right.
You don't realize it until it's one of those things that until it's not there, you don't realize how important it is.
Yeah.
So
We did have a meeting yesterday of the county registers. One of the things that we've been doing lately is evaluating other recording systems. We did have a company that is not so much prevalent in New England, but has a lot of sites in the Midwest, particularly Wisconsin, Michigan, and Illinois, parts of Illinois. Very interesting program. And so we bring different vendors in that are capable of running a Massachusetts system. And the difficulty is you have to be able to run the regular recorded land side as well as, and they call it, what the official name for it is, the torrent side.
right.
And there aren't many vendors that do that because there aren't that many places in the country that use a torrent system.
Yeah.
So I think they did a good job making a presentation, piqued a lot of people's interest, and certainly something that'll be considered by many people as they look to make a different change in their systems.
And I think that's one of the benefits of the Registered Association is that you get a group together and then you can bring in vendors that have an interest in talking to that larger, more regional audience. And I think every one of them was impressed by this particular vendor yesterday, and certainly makes us think about trying to stay ahead of the curve as we go forward in respect to technology and making sure we can give the public at large what they need.
So one of the other interesting things about the meeting yesterday was one of our technological advances. Our temperature humidity controlled colonial records room was able to be shown off, and I know they were thrilled to see some of the original handwritten documents that go back to the 1620s in the handwriting of the original Plymouth colonists, the Pilgrims, and you've been a great part of that. You want to just give a quick overview of what you presented?
Well, a good example yesterday is Well, the overview is that we pull 3 or 4 extraordinary historical records for folks to take a look at. On display, in our display case, we had the very first deed, which shows Leyden Street here in Plymouth, only on the, was it the north side? The north side was built out and the south side was
Right.
not, I think is the way it was. You know, before, there were houses there, but it laid out the lots on the right side and nobody owned the lots on the left. And you see Leyden Street, and this is written back in the 1600s. And then we had the right to trial by jury is another one of the historic records that we put together in the Miles Standish will. But one of them you had asked, you said, you know, we're going to have folks from other counties, if you can find maybe a Bristol County record that might be of interest to our Bristol County friends. And we have the original land grant for the town of Dartmouth. Mm-hmm. And
Which is not in Plymouth County, but it was in Plymouth Colony.
it was in Plymouth Colony back then. And the register from Bristol County was like, I couldn't have dreamt that I was going to get to be able to see the original deed for, order for the land grant for the town of Dartmouth. And he was just so excited, he was mesmerized by it. And that's the way people, it's great. I mean, we have a wonderful, wonderful resource here that, you know, come Plymouth 400, we're hoping to really put on full display for everybody, so.
So, you know, I give my contact information in the past. You want to just share how people might reach you if they have an idea on a colonial record that we ought to promote?
Absolutely. You can reach me by phone down at the registry. It's Tim White, but my number is 508-830-9292. Or you can email me, white@plymouthdeeds.org.
And clearly, the Register of Deeds of Barnstable County and the 3 different districts within Bristol County are certainly well aware that they are all part of the land records of Plymouth Colony.
That's right.
That was a good end to that
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah, it was. I mean, he was so excited. It was just so much fun to step back and watch the reactions, and everybody was just so gratified to be able to have that opportunity to actually see these original documents.
Thank you, as always.
You bet.
Okay.
All right.
So I want to thank Tim White for the great job he did speaking about many of our modernization efforts at the Registry of Deeds. It's something we really pride ourselves on, really trying to make advancements whenever we can to serve the public and people involved in the real estate community. This segment of the show, however, is always a little lighter in nature. We talk about the holidays of the month and some of our great Plymouth County history. The month of May had May Day and Law Day on May 1st, Cinco de Mayo in the Kentucky Derby on May 5th, Mother's Day on the 13th, the Armed Forces Day on the 19th, a very notable Plymouth County holiday, Joshua James Day, which I'll talk about a little later, and Memorial Day on the 28th. So the first notable land record we're going to talk about, and we do have this collection of notable land records that have come up, and we basically find a deed that is very important and for a variety of reasons, a person or a place. This particular situation, it's a place, because I noticed the Priscilla Beach Theater has been reopened for the summer. It is the oldest barn summer stock theater in America, and it was a training facility for many famous Broadway and Hollywood stars. And it's been there since 1937. Many people came down to this oldest barn theater as a training facility. It was the old Taylor estate. It was converted into a theater, training student actors such as Paul Newman, Rob Reiner, Daniel Blocker, Al Brooks, Monty Hall, Sandy Dennis. Hands-on training. They continue to run great programming that advise people to check out, and certainly a great part of our county history. The next notable land record we're going to talk about is Captain Joshua James. I mentioned that there's a holiday in his name, an official state holiday in his name in May. He was America's most celebrated lifesaver back in the turn of the century. Many of the ships that would travel around would get caught on shoals, sink, and lifesavers were stationed all along the coast that had learned various ways to get out there and save lives, save people from passing away and drowning off the coast. Interestingly, Joshua James is a Hull native whose mother and sister drowned in a schooner accident when he was a child. So he joined the Mass Humane Society as a lifesaver at 15 years of age. He was very involved in numerous saves. If you'd like to see some of the story of his life, there is the Hull Lifesaver Museum. That's a very nice, small, easy hit in Hull, and tells the great story of lifesavers, including Joshua James. His former life-saving station is what houses that life-saving museum. He's famous for all his various awards that he's won. There's a Joshua James Day, Commonwealth of Massachusetts has declared. There's a plaque in his honor on the site, and the Coast Guard annually gives an award to a guardsman with long and dedicated service. Last but not least, Memorial Building in Abington. We're coming up to Memorial Day. It was built as a high school, actually, Abington's first combined high school. And as the high school moved away, it was dedicated as a memorial building for the Legion, now the VFW, the Leo Dorsey Post of the Legion, U.S. Richard Fitz chapter of the Veterans of Vietnam era, and civic groups and others. It's a very significant building. I want to thank David Antoine and the folks here at PAC TV. They allow us to tell the story of the registry and things about the real estate market that people should know. For most people, their real estate is their most valuable asset, and what you can do to protect it, advance it, and treat it as such a great value is very, very important. And I want to thank Lorna Green Baker and Christine Richards from our office for the work they did in putting this show together. So we'll see you next month, and thank you for watching.